what's the NanoEngineering department's plans with respect to remote classes in the winter and spring? And second, and sort of like a build on onto that, is that after the pandemic, what's the department's approach to like recorded lectures post-pandemic? Will that still be an option? So, professors, if you would like to respond, you can just unmute and just speak up.
So I can, hello, I'm Akemi Alfafan. I'm the Student Affairs Manager for NanoEngineering. I can, I can answer the question about the remote classes for winter quarter. So classes, instructors have been given the option if they would like to continue the rest of the quarter to be in person or remote. So there are some courses that have already been identified to be moving to remote for the rest of the quarter. So in your course schedule, those will be identified as an R class, and the students in those courses have already been notified if their course will be continuing to be remote. So if the class doesn't have a notification that it's been in our class, or if a student hasn't received any update, then that means the class is anticipated to still be in person when we go back for the rest of the winter quarter. And for spring classes, the plan is right now to still have in-person classes. Departments are actually instructors have been given the opportunity to have remote classes, but they are based on very specific circumstances. So currently we're only anticipating maybe 3 courses to have a remote option, but those still need to get final approval.
You, Professor Limpomi?
Yeah, maybe I can chime in on the second question. I think this is going to be instructor specific. I would expect that most instructors are going to continue to use the podcast function, because the most of the or all of the classrooms are actually equipped to screen capture and record audio. Some other faculty members, I see my colleague Professor Drews in the audience already use a video component to their instruction, as do I and some others as well. So I'm hoping that the uptake of the podcast, if it's not 100% right now, will approach high 80s or high 90s, especially given what we've learned about the effectiveness of having multiple modalities with which to interact with the course material.
Professor Limpomi, if anyone else has anything to add in. Okay, if no one else has any other questions, I would like to sort of flip it a bit and ask if the faculty have any questions they want to ask the students here with respect to stuff about their views on the pandemic or anything particular.
I have a question. Since we're switching, or at least we have the ability to switch modalities here next week, what do students think of that? What are you planning on attending in person? If in person is there, are you planning on staying remote? I'm curious what the, not consensus is, but what are people doing?
Thank you, Professor Drews. So if any student wants to give their input, feel free to just unmute and just speak your mind. Or you can also use the text function if you don't feel comfortable talking.
I can chime in here a little bit. I only plan to be going to lectures that are like absolutely necessary, or not lectures, I guess, but the lab classes are like, it's ideal that you're there in person because you have to be. But for most other lectures, I only plan on viewing them online.
So there's also a response in chat by Eleanor. She says that she's feeling nervous and excited. She's planning to go to in-person classes unless she has to be at her lab. And Benin also plans to go in person if they offer it. I personally am definitely looking forward to like in-person labs again, because that's like the one part you can never really capture online. So also Ryan says that he's a bit concerned about changing modalities in the middle of the quarter, because then it sort of like interrupts the routine that he's currently like used to for the classes he's taking. I'll leave. I think we still have like a little bit of time. Like I'll give another minute. Itie says that he loves in-person classes, and then that they hope that podcasts will be really helpful at the same time. Maha, would you like to speak? Oh no, never mind. Oh yeah, there's also Eleanor and Ryan talking about how they're also worried if Omicron will cause a spike in cases once things go back in person. Okay, I think I've probably give it like a few seconds. If there's no other responses, I think it's time to move on to like probably another question. So okay, I think that's it for like in the pandemic. Is there, how about professors, any other questions you have regarding this? We'll have like 3 other topics, I think. 2 or 3 other 2 more topics actually. So like I'll also give you opportunity to ask specifically for those other 2 topics. So if not, Victor, I think you can take over the next part.
Okay, we'll move on to the next topic that involves Nano and Senge curriculum. These questions get a little more specific. So the first question is, we collected all these questions from a survey. Someone was curious, will Nano 175 officially be included as an elective, as it is not being reflected as such in the degree audit?
If I recall, that has been approved to be an elective. Do you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I think, Renee, is that true that we discussed that? And I think this is actually approved to be officially an elective.
Yes, it is. It has been approved to be an elective. Any nano or chem-eng course 100 through 199 are considered electives. And sometimes the degree audit, we're waiting on the degree audit people to update the newer classes to count them. But Student Affairs has been going in and updating everyone's degree audit to reflect any new courses that are not showing right now.
Okay, thank you, Renee and Professor Luarda. We'll move on to the next question. Will upper division nanoengineering major requirements be offered regularly more than once a year?
Well, that question is also, Renee, related to our efforts on time to degree. So we are trying to, there is a big initiative about making students complete their degree on time. And one way to help that is to offer more frequently many of the classes. So we are working on that, and I don't know whether it's Andrea here, whether we can say really that we are going to regularly offer everything more than once, but we are trying to offer more than once whenever we can do that, depending on the enrollment and so forth. Akemi, do you want to comment on this?
Well, to add to what Lotto was saying, the department is working on trying to offer more of the core courses more than just once a year. So as you may see in this year's course schedule, we're offering some of the core courses twice during the year. So like once in fall and once in winter, or you'll see it in winter and then you'll also see it in spring. So the department is trying to make these efforts.
Right.
Okay, thank you. We can move on to the next question as well. The chemical engineering technical elective offerings for material science and engineering are relatively limited. Would the nano department add more undergraduate material science courses that can be used as a MSE technical elective? If no one has any,
yeah,
go ahead.
I'm not 100% sure I know what you mean by the chemical engineering technical elective offerings for material science. So you mean, yeah.
I can clarify that, Professor Lupoli. So like, if you actually look at the chemical engineering technical elective requirements, they allow you to pick like from a huge list of technical electives, and then one of them, like, you know, there's of course like stuff like nanotechnology that you can use as a technical elective. But they also specifically have like material science and engineering set of technical electives with a list of approved courses. And because it's so limited, basically, I think Ryan just put it in the chat. You're basically kind of forced to take grad classes in order to satisfy the elective, if that makes sense. And so like, I think the question was targeting specifically like, you know, is there going to be some form of undergraduate alternative rather than, you know, basically if you want to do this, you want to pursue this route for chemical engineering, you're forced to take grad classes, or essentially your choices are quite limited. It's either like these few specific nano courses or grad classes.
I see. So back in the day of the tracks for nanoengineering, the material science was actually the material science track was actually the most well populated in terms of electives, and I'm not sure if that list in the chemi list is just missing some, or if the offerings for what was previously the material science track within nano, okay, has actually been reduced. Maybe Vlado or Renee or Cyril might.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand also this question. Is this related, Darren, to focuses? I'm not sure whether you guys are talking about material science and engineering focus within chemical engineering program.
Yes, I think in essence that's kind of what the question is trying to ask, because I mean in respect to the technical electives.
So do we still have that? So there is a focus material science. I love that focus if there is within chemical engineering. So you have that focus. Is that what you're saying?
It exists according to the website. It says it's there, but as you can see from the list of courses, it's pretty limited, and I think that's what the question is trying to get at.
So you would like to have some undergraduate material science and engineering courses from nanoengineering. So we have some of those. Take some of my classes. Take all of my classes. Take Nano 141A. Many chemical engineering were taking an equivalent class when I was in MAE. Take 150, take 174, take one, what was it, 161. There are many material science focused classes in nanoengineering program, and all of those would serve well for you guys, chemical engineering students.
Yeah, almost any of these courses listed under nanotechnology in the link that Jessica provided could be used for an interest in MSE, depending on whether your interest is fundamental, whether it's for energy, whether it's for biomaterials. You should, there are probably, 20 electives here under nanotechnology.
Also, there are lots of grad courses in material science, but not so many undergrad because we don't have an undergrad material science program as of yet. That may come down in the future.
So
Yeah, that's true.
Add something there.
I wanted to add that even though in the technical electives under chemical engineering, you may see some classes that are listed under the focus for nano, but you may like, oh, maybe I can use that for my technical electives for chemical engineering. What you can do is submit a petition, and if it looks like it can be a technical elective for the chemical engineering program, then it's most likely that one of the that your petition will become approved. But it's not guaranteed. It's just a matter of submitting that petition to see if it will be approved for that technical elective. Does that make sense, Victor?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you so much.
Okay.
If no one has anything else to add, we can move on to the next question. So the next question is, will there be more data science programming or electrical engineering related nano electives offered in the future? And will these engineering classes from other departments be petitionable as nano electives?
Well, I do know that data science you are now able to take data science as a minor with your nano engineering or chemical engineering major. So that might provide some more classes.
Right. We might have already kind of touched on this topic, so if anyone has anything else to add, feel free.
I think I have a bit more insight on like the rationale behind like someone asking this question. Basically, I think with the new curriculum, because prior to this, the old curriculum, the focuses, we had nano focuses where you could take classes from other departments and that would count towards your focus electives. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but like with the new curriculum, you can't do that. Your electives have to be from the nano department specifically. And I think this question is probably sort of like circling and targeted at like, this sort of technicality that's arisen because of the new curriculum.
So just like I had mentioned previously, it answers this question, will engineering classes from other departments be petitionable as nano electives? Well, it's not listed on the website. Again, you can always submit a petition to Student Affairs and it can be reviewed by one of the faculty members.
Right.
And please petition before you take the course.
Yes. And then if the petition becomes approved, it won't automatically be updated on your degree audit. That's something that will have to be manually done. So, as Renee had mentioned, it is important that you do submit your petition before you take the class because you want to ensure that that class will be counted for one of our requirements, especially if it's from another department.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next question on the slide. With Professor Meng leaving, will Nano 164 be delisted? If so, does the department plan to introduce more courses focused on energy? And what are the new teaching arrangements, as well as who will teach Nano 148?
Definitely not delisted. Because we don't delist classes for unless they haven't really been taught, or there isn't a use for them anymore, but there definitely is a use for 164. I know that teaching assignments will be distributed soon. I don't know what they are yet, though.
We actually had a meeting today and we discussed the topic. We have a very strong group in batteries, and we will have a superb teacher for 164. And regarding thermodynamics, that's such a fundamental subject, and I'm sure we will find a person who will take that on a long run, we have to have a regular teacher for many years for that subject. And actually that course also would be wonderful technical elective for chemical engineers also, although they may have their own thermodynamics. Do you guys, Aaron, do you have in chemical engineering thermodynamics class?
Oh, yes.
Chemical thermodynamics, it must be. Right. Anyway, so of course there will be a teacher for 148, and we actually discussed it today, but we are working on it.
Okay, thank you. There's actually one more question that didn't really make it on the slide. It's kind of related to the department as a whole, but a student had asked a question about the changing the name to the department as a whole, if there were any updates about that, or if you wanted to, if they're unaware of that, if you wanted to expand on that.
Well, there is, I'm talking too much, sorry about this, but there is a discussion on that ongoing, that's an ongoing activity. So I can say more. I don't know whether, I don't see the list of participants, whether somebody wants to say more specifically, but we are working on it also. We are considering it.
Yeah, it's a follow-up. There is a lot of, it is a highly favorable proposal in the last faculty staff meeting. So it looks like this will happen in the next couple of years, but these things take a long time and we haven't completely vetted it, but there was a lot of enthusiasm around this idea.
Okay, thank you for your input. I did want to flip the discussion and ask if there was any questions faculty had for the students in the audience involving curriculum or anything related. If not, we can also move on to the next topic. I will pass it off to Joseph to lead the next part of the discussion.
Okay, so the last part of the discussion is about career guidance and research opportunities. So the questions that we have are, Victor, can you next slide? Yeah. So actually, it's pretty okay. The first question is sort of like a specific example, and the general essence of the question is that this study would like to work for a lab, but they are concerned about what kind of obligations they have to the lab, because they might want to maybe do something else during the summer, but then they want to work in the lab for the rest of the year. So what do professors how do professors view this kind of arrangement when they're looking for undergrad research volunteers, for example? So if a student wants to join in the spring and then they would like to research they want to do something else in the summer, then come back in the fall.
Well, if a professor objects to letting you do your internship over the summer, then they best be prepared to pay you for that summer and not work for free in the summer, if the alternative is an internship. So this has happened in my lab. Ping can follow up too, but this has definitely happened. It's not a big deal. we know that engineering students have other obligations in the summer. Although it'd be great if you could stay. The onus is on us to find the support if you don't have an external fellowship.
Does anyone else have any input? Else, oh yeah, Professor.
I agree with Darren.
Yeah, I would say in general, we would encourage students if they have internship opportunity to take that rather than discouraging it. That should not be a negative at all.
Any other professor wants to give their input? Else I'll move on to like the next question.
Just one sentence of follow-up. They'll come back in the fall better.
Yeah. Okay. That's.
I think there is perhaps one aspect of this question is if the person starts doing, and I don't have a lab and I don't speak from my experience on this, but there are colleagues here who can address this. If I think the person may be concerned if he starts or she starts the lab work with the professor for a quarter and then internship comes in the summer, would that interrupt very much her research in the previous quarter because the person would like to continue research in the fall? But I guess that can be overcome. But I don't know whether I explained this, whether that, Darren, can you perhaps answer that for it? So if I understand this question well, it's kind of interruption of research because of an internship, which I strongly support, that internship activity. But I guess that can be kind of overcome.
Yeah, I think in the first quarter of research, students are generally learning to use equipment, learning how to manage their time, learning the techniques maybe specific to that lab, and probably wouldn't interrupt, a project too much because the actual meat of the project probably won't have started by the end of the first quarter.
Great. Yes, that makes so much sense. I agree.
Thank you, everyone. If there's no other further input on this question, I'll move on to the next question because I think there's also some questions coming in the chat that I'll also ask. So the second question is sort of like a more general question for any professor to answer. Like, what advice can you give first and second year students seeking research experience?
So I can give it a try. I think this really depends on individual faculty's style, how they interact with the group dynamic. But I would say from my personal experience, I have found that whether a undergraduate is productive as a research in a group has little to do with which year they're in. So in my lab, we had first year, second year, third year. And I have not found any clear correlation that like which year you enter the lab would speak for your success or lack thereof. I think it's really how you approach the research. So the main advice in my current 101B class, several students have asked about research in my group. The number one advice I give is that you need to think big. You're going to learn things. Working in a research group, you will learn a lot of things you will not be able to learn in a normal lecture class or even in a laboratory class. You will be exposed to a lot of very capable people and very closely working with people. So this is kind of a real treat. But think about how you can, not just you're going to learn, also think big, think what you can contribute. Because particularly that would sort of do wonders to your experience, because you will set the bar very high for yourself, and you will be highly motivated, and you will pick up things very quickly, rather than purely the passive thing. I'm going to join a group to learn something. You will learn a lot of things. That's a given. But always think something beyond just learning something. Think about contributing. I think that would help a lot.
Is there any other professors who want to give their input on this?
Yes, I would like to say something that I was saying to students over the last 20 years on this topic. I agree with everything that was said about this, that one can start research from the very first year, but the student has himself or herself to, when he comes to campus, to first grab the school, to grab the education coursework in his hands and control that, and be certain that he or she is doing really well in his classes. And then once the student sees that he handles his classes well and that is rolling firm, then he enters the research, because you want to be sure that you're doing your classwork fine, that you are moving toward graduation, and then if that is in control, then you also, in addition to that, do research to gain experience in research. So that's one addition to this. The second addition that I was having, when I was actually having collaboration with my students in the past, for some research you need some background, and depending on what type of research you do and how involved your research is, you cannot start it immediately because you simply didn't take the course on the subject. And I know that this is kind of relative. You can go there and just look and kind of and go in the lab and be around the graduate students and so forth. But anyway, it's easier to do research in many subjects if you already have some background on the topic of the research. So the coursework does help there. So that's something that I was advising many students in various departments, the advice that I was giving. I don't know whether this makes sense what I said, but that's what I wanted to share with you.
Is there any other professors that would like to give their input? Off.
Yes. Thank you, Flato. I really do agree with that idea that one must be reasonably secure in their academic coursework before adding research on top of their plate. I do have a talk on this on YouTube that I dropped in the chat. I have a lot of thoughts about this topic, particularly as it relates to the second question on the screen. I don't think we've started talking about fourth year students yet, have we?
No, we haven't.
No.
Okay, I'll leave it there then.
Okay. Well, anyways, if there's no one else who wants to give input on that question, the second question, I'll go on to the last one. So do you have any recommendations for fourth year students that struggle to gain internship and research experience during the pandemic? Because I think, especially since a lot of people like, during the pandemic, I think for like last year, the general vibe was that we can try and wait it out and then try again the next year. But I think for some people they might not necessarily have that luxury to do that. And so what do professors think about, like, how can fourth year students still at least get that research experience, especially since we've been stuck in this pandemic for, I think, almost over 2 years. Was it 2 years? Was it 3? I can't tell, but yeah. Feel free to give your input.
I think that anything I would say to fourth year students would be just a more refined version of what I would say to first and second year students. And that is, when you send emails to professors or when you meet with them after class or meet with them in person, be very specific about why you think or why you are curious about their research, why their research interests you, what you can bring to the table, especially when it's a little bit farther along in your undergraduate career and you don't have any research experience yet, which is totally understandable because of COVID. You might mention, I'm good with image analysis on MATLAB or Python, or I did an internship, a theoretical internship, and I can do some computation, or I did really well in this particular lab, or I'm very interested in microscopy. Find some hook. Some hook to stoke their interest in your application. And definitely, the surest way not to get a position, especially as a fourth or fifth year student, is to say, I want experience for my resume. That's not going to be enough.
Professor Napomi, does anyone else have any input on this? Further input on this? Okay, if no one else has any further input on this, I actually do have a private question sent to me, and that I would like to that I would ask is also regarding research and things like that. So the question is, if a student wishes to apply for a summer undergraduate research scholarship, which requires both a project proposal and faculty sponsorship, and is currently not in the lab, is it all right for them to like approach professors specifically for the purpose of this program? Like, so professors, do let us know what you think.
Yeah, absolutely appropriate to do that. I'm applying to this REU. I'm listing you as my preferred mentor. That's totally appropriate to do.
Yeah, to provide a little more context. So the undergraduate research scholarships are scholarships at UCSD, which require a faculty's letter of recommendation and a project proposal for the undergrad, typically on a project that the lab is already doing. And while it's easy for undergrads to, who are already in the lab to apply for this, how should undergrads who are not in the lab, is it too much to ask for a letter of rec and a project proposal from the professor's lab for the summer program? Or is that, I guess, what is appropriate?
You probably don't want to ask for a completely baked project proposal, but you can send them, like this could be for TRELS or something. You could send the professor something that you came up with, or something that you came up with after consulting with them or one of their graduate students. But I wouldn't, ask for something that they had written already, unless you can find it publicly in a paper or in a online talk that they might have given. But in general, I mean, these questions, don't be afraid of us. Like, communicate with us about your intentions and what you need. And, we want to have students in our labs. That's why we're here. So we're gonna help you with it. And if a professor is not willing to help you with it or talk to you about it, then you don't want to work in their lab anyway.
Has any other professor want to give input on this? If not, then well, here's my chance to like flip the table again and ask professors, do they have any questions they want to ask students about with respect to things about regarding like career and research opportunities, things they want to get like an insight into from students who are in the audience right now?
If I may say, I'm reading this. Oh yeah, about these fourth-year students struggling to gain internship or research. So if you guys are applying to graduate school or jobs, and if you happen not to have this internship or research experience, well, because of pandemic, well, then you should write that down in your application. And people are now, and institutions are very understanding toward that. That the situation was like that you just couldn't get it. And if you express your enthusiasm about graduate school and you show other qualities, I think you will be fine and you will be admitted to best schools and best industry employers. So of course, internship and research experience is important, but it's really huge decades of work in front of you. If you have your heart there, if they recognize that you are thrilled about what is coming in front of you, either in graduate school or in industry work, that is the most important. Grades help, of course, but it's really your drive and desire to succeed in whatever you are pursuing. That's the most important.
Professor actually, does anyone else have anything they want to comment or ask questions about for this topic?
In general, I'm receiving many, many fewer applications for undergraduate research in my lab than at any point since I've been here in 9.5 years. And I'm not exactly sure why that is, but it is fewer. It's not like I have a ton of positions available, but I do have some. And I think it's obviously related to COVID, but I wonder if there's any reason, or are people looking elsewhere, companies or what? Because I'm not getting as much interest now as before.
Students, feel free to just unmute or like put it in chat if you have any like feedback on this or any like comments or opinions on it. I'll give maybe like 10 or 20 more seconds to see if anyone, because maybe someone might be typing up a response right now. Let's see. Okay. Well, okay. If there isn't any responses, I probably think it's just COVID, and probably the fact that people are remote, and they probably think like, how am I going to work in a lab if I'm not even in San Diego? That's probably
just too big a barrier.
That's probably my theory, because I know a lot of people, a lot of my NanoEngineering friends are like not even in San Diego, and sometimes it's a bit hard to work in a lab if you're physically not there. So, also there's a private message. Some people say that they don't really have anything on the resume or CV, and especially with COVID, it sort of like worsens the CV resume, like the experience to get experience issue that some students are also like concerned about, because in the past, there were probably still ways you could like inch and get a little bit of experience, then get noticed by professor. And now I think this kind of avenue is also vanishing.
Yeah, it strikes me that that kind of thinking, which may be our fault as faculty members, but it's kind of backwards, right? The undergraduate volunteer position is the experience that begets other experience. So by all means, apply.
Yeah, so the person who like privately messaged me, yeah, you heard that. So if there aren't is there any other professors that would like to give their input on this?
So Joseph, I have a separate question for the students. So I have, because of the departure of Professor Meng, so I have taken the Industrial Advisory Board Committee again. So as of now, I'm running the board again. So we are planning various activities for the board. In the past, there were various mechanisms to interact with the board, as well as some of the events organized by Nish. I don't think my request has changed over the years. I still would like to see the students to have a much broader participation when such events do take place. It takes a lot of effort on the student leaders' part to put these events together. So I really want to get everyone's take on what are the potential creative ways we can broaden the appeal of these type of events to the sort of a more diverse sets of students.
So Professor, just like sort of like rephrase the question, you're asking like what kinds of events that where you interact with like the industry advisory board that you would like see students suggest? Am I getting that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So if anyone would like to like pitch ideas and things like that, feel free to like, you can leave it in chat. You can unmute yourself. Just speak. If not, actually, I think I can give a bit of I can give a bit of ideas. Basically, I think I've been trying to contact the industry advisory board. I was discussing with my the Nets board about figuring out ways to like get connected with industry, and some of the ideas I came up with, I think like include things like hosting more recruiting sessions, info sessions. So like, companies can come and just give like maybe like each of the companies that in the board can like, send a representative down to just come and talk about the company, and like, specifically how like nano/chemical engineering can students can contribute, and also things like companies sponsor projects through like the team internship program. So like, the team internship program, there's like internships and stuff. I think recently there's like one company that started like offering like nano engineering like internships through the team TIP program, which is I think is being hosted by the Jacobs School of Engineering, if I'm not wrong. That's at least that's my input for now. Does anyone else have any input?
Yeah, I think more direct interaction with the industry advisory board is something that students would be interested in. I think part of the concerns for nanoengineering students is where their place in industry is. And like Joseph said, it'd be really great if we can get presentations on where they can contribute specifically in certain roles in their company. Yeah.
All right, that's great. That's a very good input. We could pursue that.
Okay, so just for the benefit of the people who are viewing the recording, Professor Opakowitz actually wrote a comment about like those people who are for people concerned that they don't have any experience on their resume, do not underestimate actual experience. If you have no internship but you've worked at like a store, like a coffee shop, for example, you can still say you work in a team, you work with customers, and you can manage people. And if you work in project groups, you can also say that you work in teams, or you can lead a project team, or you know how to resolve conflicts in work groups. And Professor Lim probably agrees with that. And in my experience, that's sort of like the questions that they ask in internship interviews anyway. So that's I can also corroborate that. Does anyone else want to respond, Professor, to like the question about industry events? If not, we'll move on to open questions. Okay, we'll move on to, I think we'll move on to open questions for now. If anyone has like any questions, so this both can be from the student or the faculty, feel free to ask. So like students, if you have like any questions, yeah, the faculty are all here. And okay, Professor Opakowitz, you can feel free to ask a question.
First off, I want to congratulate you on being able to pronounce my name. What I just wanted to add from my comment here, but also at least for the fourth years, whether you're chemical engineers or nano engineers, you are currently in your senior design courses. So you definitely are in teams now, even if you never have before. So again, you like advertise the sort of projects and sort of design teams that you're in. You're gonna, I believe in Nano 120, you'll be designing your own particular project, at least in 120B. So maybe you're starting to prep that now. And for chemical engineers, 176, you're starting to learn experiments, and in 124, again, you're developing teams where you'll actually be designing processes. So those are also things that you can advertise on your resume. It's early now relative to when you will be done with those project teams, but still you can put them now. You'll be going through interviews, and as time progresses, you'll be able to talk more and more about those particular experiences along with others.
Professor, does anyone have any other questions or input on like any of the topics that's been discussed so far throughout the town hall? It's feel free to just ask. Okay, we do actually have a question in chat.
Sorry, never mind.
Oh, sorry. Ellen, I'll get to you right after because I saw the text. So basically, the question is in chat is most if not all of the professors have a broad engineering background, whether it's like chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, and has become an expert in their field, going from broad to something specific. So she's asking, would those that complete NanoEngineering degree have this same degree of flexibility and opportunity when it comes to like career opportunities, considering that NanoEngineering is starting at a very specific field rather than like a very broad field? So, do any professors have any input on that?
Of course, you will work you put your mind on whatever challenge is in front of you, and you can solve the problems in nanoengineering, in related mechanical engineering, structural engineering, electrical engineering, whatever comes in front of you, you put your mind on it, consult the literature, talk to your colleagues, think about it, and you will figure it out. That is experience through which I went through, dealing with all kinds of problems that were coming in front of me. I never thought, the question is excellent, actually. I never thought when I did my PhD, I was working on metal plasticity. I thought I would stay all my life in metal plasticity. Never thought I would move on to rocks, soft tissues, polymers, composites, totally other things. So you work what life brings you to work. It doesn't have to, so don't worry about that issue. If you gain your fundamental knowledge, learn these subjects that you have in your curriculum, and later on, you just put your mind and your heart on the problem that is in front of you, and you will deal with it very well. And to support that, you know, in mechanical engineering, half of the professors are not mechanical engineers. In structural engineering, you have mechanical engineers, material scientists. So it's a multidisciplinary era. People are from all kinds of, many physics professors in various engineering departments. I actually think nanoengineering is such a wonderful kind of combination of all kinds of fundamental topics, and you can work in any engineering field, in any engineering company, fundamental basic physics or chemistry or, you know, biology. So I think that's my thought about that.
I would second Vlado's comments, and I would also add something else, which is you want to find the sharpest arrow in your quiver and use that in your career. And sometimes the thing to do to make yourself unique to an employer or to the broader public is to find the thing that you do uniquely. And say, in my own case, I had no idea that I would get tenure on the basis of being maybe the only person in the world at the time being interested in like the mechanical properties of semiconducting polymers. But because that's not something that got me out of bed in the morning as a teenager, because I didn't even know what any of those words in that sentence even meant. But I knew something about organic chemistry. So maybe compared to the general population, I was like 1 in 20. Then maybe I was 1 in 5 that knew something about mechanics. And I was maybe, I don't know, 1 in 10 that knew something about fabrication engineering. So then you take all the denominators, 20 times 5 times 10, and now I'm like, you know, 1 in 1,000 people that can do a particular thing. So just look at the intersections of the things that interest you, and maybe do something there as a way to differentiate your skills. I see we're right at 4:30. Sorry, we didn't get to every question.
I think, yeah, we hit 4:30, but we were just like quickly squeeze in Eleanor's question. So basically the question is that, is there any other updates for replacing MAE 170 with a Sench class? I think in the last town hall, if I'm not wrong, there was like mentions about like potential replacement class for MAE 170. So I think she's asking an update for that.
Since I know we're nearing the 4:30 time, I'll keep it brief. The plan is for that class to happen this fall or next fall. This fall, if everything goes the way that we need it to go. The fall, or I should say either this fall or this coming spring, as in not next spring, like the one that starts in 10 weeks, but the one that's, you know, out in, would that be 2023?
Okay, so I think that's all the time we have. So thank you everyone. Thank you, professors. Thank you, students, for attending this town hall. If you please fill in the sign-in form if you haven't. It'd be appreciated to get like a sense of like how we can improve for future town halls. And thank you so much. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for
Thank you,
coming,
guys.
everybody. And thanks to the organizers too. This was great.
Thank you.